Hey, it's your boy Eric. I'm procrastinating again today. Just kind of really stressed out. And whenever that happens, I usually find some kind of like electronic device to tear apart, figure out how it works, see what I can do with it. So here I have a Logitech C920 webcam that's been used and abused. I bought it years ago to do something, and I've kind of forgotten whatever that was. Anyway, I've used it to watch my 3D printers and stuff like that. The front glass is obviously missing, and I've already opened up and taken the screws up, so the stand pops right off. But I wanted to kind of experiment with the infrared photography. And I've had a bunch of digital cameras I've torn apart over the years and failed. Because the thing is, all cameras basically can see way more than the human eye can, spectrum-wise. Visible light, it's a thin little sliver of actual light that we can see. And they put a little filter that looks like this guy here in front of your digital sensor, and that blocks the infrared light from hitting it, which would screw up the colors, because it can see it but you can't. But anyway, this guy, I've taken all the screws out, and there's lots of plastic in here and more screws. This is the first one I've actually successfully gotten around to getting that filter out. So what you gotta do is, after disassembling this guy completely, pop that PCB out of there. There we go. You got your little autofocus housing on here. And it's just screwed in a couple places on the back. So you're gonna take your screwdriver and take those screws out. There's a bunch of more screws before this I already removed. And I don't think it's necessary for you guys to see that. You can figure that out. And then it's got two little connections in here for the motor for the autofocus. So I already got my soldering iron here warmed up. I'm just going to desolder that real quick. There we go, and that comes right off. And so what you got down there is your camera sensor. It's very tiny. You can see it's smaller than my fingernail. That's what produces the image. And then you got your lens here. Now what I've already done is ground off about a millimeter on the back here. So it used to be a millimeter longer. I had some little pegs that helped get it into place so it would stay in place. Thankfully those screws are enough. Anyway, inside there you can see a little box around the lens, and in that box was that filter I'd shown you before. This is from a different camera, so it's not going to quite fit in that box, but something was in there. I poked it with an X-Acto knife to kind of pry it out, and after that I put it back on, and what I found is that filter is necessary for the optical formula for it to focus to infinity, which is far away. And without it there, it can only focus about 12 inches, which wasn't good enough for what I wanted to do. So that's why I ground off the back with a Dremel, about a millimeter. That allowed it to sit a little bit closer to our sensor there, and that gives us the ability to focus to infinity once again. So you just put it back on there and pretend that this is all put back together, and I will show you some of the results. The first result here, you can see everything the colors look a little bit weird, and that's just infrared light overlaid on top of the color light. So it's an interesting effect. It definitely, I'm interested to see how I can use this to reduce noise and exposure. I want to do this to a larger camera at some point in the future. And then next thing I did, I had a Wiimote lying around. And what people don't know is the sensor here is actually a camera. Nintendo sells you a sensor bar that you put by your TV. That's just a couple of infrared lights. And the little thing here when you're moving around, it sees those lights move around and those where point the cursor on the screen. So after you take your Wiimote apart, and you need one of these special tri-lobe screw thingies, because Nintendo's weird and doesn't want you getting into things, you can take out this, and this is a filter that only passes infrared light. That's why it looks black to us. But if you put it on top of that camera here, pretend that's all put back together. I just kind of taped it in place with a little bit of tape like that for the sensor. Did a slightly better job, not too much better. And now I have a perfectly functional infrared camera. Pretty neat. I gotta walk around with my computer hooked up to a computer. A laptop is preferable if you're running around outside. I don't want to be carrying a desktop. And then I had to throw that into a big box that's like over a foot in every direction to fit the laptop in there because I can't see the screen in the sunlight. So I'm doing this whole Ansel Adams thing with my computer to take these cool infrared photography, and it's just real neat to see how the American flag there just completely bleaches out. But yeah, I'm gonna try this again in the future on a bigger camera, and maybe buy some infrared lights and like see if I can find any critters in the night or something. Anyway, that's been my current distraction. I had a series for this on Patreon. I don't know, was it called My Current Distraction or something? We'll figure that out. Anyway, thanks for watching.